Portugal is a warm embrace, and it's a place that I feel it's okay to be as woo-woo as I am here. Not that not that I felt it wasn't okay to be woo-woo in Paris. Like I said, in 2024, I was in Paris like 5 times because I had work over there. But it's just,
What's that word that you
I
use,
feel like
Michelle? Woo woo?
woo-woo,
Woo woo?
woo-woo,
Yeah.
spiritual woo-woo,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I feel I feel there's a lot of people over here just wanting to live
B.
that, just be and not have to make excuses for themselves.
Portugal.
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 Our vegetables are like rock stars.
Literally, Portugal is a small Disneyland for grown-ups.
I think that Portugal is like my geographic soulmate.
It's hard to explain what it is because it's a feeling.
And when I went there, I absolutely fell in love with Portugal.
I wanted to feel the crunchiness.
Portugal, the Simple Life Podcast.
Portugal, the Simple Life Podcast.
And we're here on his podcast, Portugal Simple Life.
Portugal, the Simple Life Podcast, your insider's perspective into Portugal. And our latest episode starts right now. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, the Simple Life. And I'm really happy to be joined here by Michelle Pozon. I should have asked you if that's the correct way to pronounce your surname.
No, that's fine. Michelle Pozon. It's
Pozon.
good.
Okay, close enough. Michelle, thank you for being on the podcast. How are you today?
Well, I just flew in last night after 6 weeks in Manila, so I'm a little bit jet lagged.
Thank you for this.
I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be greeted by sunshine. I heard you had 3 weeks of rain while I was gone.
While you were gone, it was a good time to be out of the country. And normally I say to people, don't leave, but it was a good time to be gone. We've had a lot of rain, storms of huge proportions in Portugal that we've never had before. So it's been a bit of a hectic one, but everything, like you said, the sun's shining, everything seems to be going back to normal. So yeah. Did you feel the tremor today?
No.
There was a tremor.
What time was the trip?
Like at 12 o'clock.
What time was that at?
Like midday. Yeah, there was a tremor in Lisbon.
Wow. No. Every time there's a tremor in Lisbon, I haven't been here.
Yeah.
Today, apparently, I was here and I didn't feel it. Did you feel it?
No. I just knew about it because I got WhatsApp messages from people saying, "Did you feel it?" And I'm like, "Feel what?" I didn't feel anything. So
no.
Okay, that's a good thing. Anyway, Michelle, why don't you start off telling us a bit about yourself?
Okay, that's a pretty broad question.
Go as broad or specific as you like. There are no
okay,
rules.
I'll start with my name is Michelle Pozon. I'm a spiritual stylist. What that means is after a 20-year career, 25 plus career in fashion, I decided to go on the other side of it and help women develop their style and recognize style as a means of self-leadership and empowering us to create the world that we want to see. What that means is fashion sells you a narrative that you need to buy clothes, you need to look a certain way. The list is long of what women are supposedly lacking, hence they are always pushing product. And I help people get away from that and take their style into their own hands. I've been doing this since 2014. It started off in Paris. And so I'm going a bit backwards here, but prior to Lisbon, I was living in Paris for 20 years. And prior to that, I was in New York. Prior to that, I was in San Francisco, and prior to that, Hong Kong. And then that's pretty much where I spent my childhood, in Hong Kong and around Southeast Asia.
Okay. So let's go back a few steps. You obviously speak French.
Oui.
Okay, merci beaucoup. That's about it. That's about that's about it for my French. I can say the bad words, but then I'll have to tick the explicit material box on the podcast, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I think I could swear in 5 languages. Not that I will.
Cool. That's cool. That's a skill. It's soft skill, hard skill. I don't know which way to describe it, but it's a good one.
Well, I guess I can do compliments in a few languages too. So, it balances out.
Balances out. Yeah, very nice. Take us back to Portugal. What was your first experiences of our country?
So Portugal, I moved here in August of 2020.
COVID.
Yeah, I moved here like mid-pandemic, I guess, Sorry, the cat decided to join us.
Not the first cat that's appeared on the podcast. My cat appeared the other day, so we're good.
All right. I moved here from Paris because I figured, I can do my work from anywhere. And while I loved my life in Paris, something in me was saying I need more sunshine.
Okay.
So February of 2020, I took a trip to Lisbon and I fell in love. And, everything just fell into place. I found an apartment.
So you fell in love to be clear, you fell in love with Lisbon. With somebody.
Yes. So I'm already in love with my husband of 25 years.
Fantastic.
So I fell in love with Lisbon.
That's good. Good.
I fell in love with Lisbon and I told clear that up. And I told my husband, who was skiing at the time, because, he goes to ski and I'm looking for sunshine, that I want to move to Lisbon because why not? We can. It's easy. Everything would just fell into place. I found an apartment. I can live here. And so
why not?
We moved. August, we moved.
In August 2020. That's sunny month as well to move, and a hot month.
Yeah, it was a sunny month. It was great. I transferred my son from school here to Lisbon, and that was super easy too. I just figured if something was just happening so seamlessly, then I took that as a sign as it's a go, and I don't know if you heard from like the list of cities that I had lived in before. They're all really busy, bustling cities.
Yeah.
And at this stage in my life, I just wanted the embrace of warmth and a simpler life.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about that because so let me just see if I remember correctly. So it's Hong Kong, New York, San Francisco, Paris, and then you're well versed with Manila. These are big cities.
Right. I mean, I also lived in Singapore and Jakarta and KL. So growing up, I was in Southeast Asia. The biggest chunk of which was in Hong Kong. And then my professional life was in San Francisco, New York, and then Paris.
Wow. Okay. But so these are all big cities. You've come to Lisbon, which, by Portuguese standards is a big city, but by world standards, it's a village.
Right. And then I think the most Portuguese in Portugal are in Lisbon. And then after that, the next biggest Portuguese city is Paris. That's the joke, at least.
Well, yeah, there's more Portuguese in Paris than what there are in Porto, which is
yes, right. Yeah.
Have you? You've probably not done this before, but have you ever? There's a big event like in the summer when all the French come back to Portugal for the summer, and there's a border post called Vila Formosa where this is where all the cars come in, and it's like this huge traffic jam. And it's like a big thing on the news, and they interview the people while they're sitting in their cars waiting to cross the border about, hey, where have you driven from? What are you looking forward to? And everyone's talking about how much they're looking forward to coming back to Portugal for their holidays.
Yeah.
It's
so funny because there's so many Parisians who have moved to Lisbon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a reverse migration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So but when you visited the first time, you didn't stay for long. It was a short trip?
It was a short trip just to see if I could get a good feeling for it. And I did.
You did. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was here for about 10 days. I found the apartment.
In that 10 days?
I found out where I wanted my son to go to school, all of that. Yeah.
In that 10 days?
Mm-hmm.
So you got a lot done in 10 days?
I know. I did.
You made up your mind to move, and then you got your place to stay and a school for your son.
Yeah.
in 10 days. That's pretty
I
productive.
know that's kind of rare, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen to everyone every day, and it's not my experience of my everyday life either.
Yeah.
So when everything was falling into place that well, I
Yeah.
took it as a sign that,
Yeah.
definitely move over. That said, because Paris is so easy to get to from here, there was a time that I'd be in Paris, 5 times in the year. Like 2024, I was in Paris all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes depending on what mood I'm in, I feel like I'm just living in the sunny side of Paris because there's so many French people here.
Yeah.
But, I'm living in the better part. I don't know if that's a nice thing to say.
The better half of Paris.
Yeah.
The right side of the train tracks. Yeah.
Right.
Let's dig down on that a little bit because, Paris is a very cool city. I've been there a couple of times, 3 times, I think. You mentioned that you wanted sunshine and something calmer.
Mm-hmm.
There must have been more that you were looking for, obviously, especially when you're coming across with a kid and your husband. What were some of the other things that were on your checklist of what you wanted from the place to move to?
I love that we're so near the water, and from many vantage points in the city of Lisbon, you can see the water, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, I always had a view of a body of water. And in Paris, the Seine was a bike ride away, but I just felt landlocked in Paris. So yes, just the openness, open sky, space is what I was looking for. I was just done with the hectic pace of life. And I'm in a space right now that I can give myself calm if I want it. So, why not? If you're blessed, enjoy your blessing. That's how I saw it because, life can be hectic enough as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, take your grace where you can get it.
Yeah. You mentioned, going back and forth between Paris and Lisbon in 2024 a lot. And I think we're in a world today where we do have that privilege of being able to move around, work from anywhere. I think COVID changed a lot of that as well. But it gives us that luxury and that blessing of being able to say, well, you know what, I'm not feeling it this week. Let's go somewhere nicer for the next 2 months. And that's quite lucky. And then being in Europe, being so close to all these different places, we were just in the UK over the weekend. In 2 weeks' time, I'm in Belgium, and it's all like 2 hours, 3 hours. Flying is not fun, but it's literally
flying is not fun anymore.
No, it's horrible. I hate flying now. It used to be so
like
exciting, and actually, I was flying back from the UK, and I thought to myself, "You're such an idiot." Like when I used to start flying around, I was so like, "Wow, I'm flying." And now I'm like, oh God, I hate this. But
it isn't. I don't think you're an idiot. I think it's changed.
Yeah.
The service, just the business of flying, it isn't that humane anymore. It's not.
True.
It doesn't feel good anymore to fly. I grew up everywhere, and I was always flying. And even as a younger adult, I was enjoying flying. But I think around 10 years ago, just the whole industry just made it harder and more unpleasant to fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's come back to Portugal. Now that you've been here for, it's almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in August. What are some of the things that you've been surprised about, that Portugal has surprised you with? Some of the things that you've discovered that you didn't think you would enjoy so much about living here? How's it going?
Okay. It's just really nice to be happy most of the time. And like, I'm really influenced by blue sky, right? So if I'm surrounded by sunshine, I'm just happy. And Portugal has a wealth of that compared to, the previous city that I was living in. The people are very warm and friendly. And another reason why it was so easy to move to Portugal is because the Portuguese speak English and French and Spanish, right? So you could get by. It was easy for me to just land.
Yeah.
right? When I do my shopping in the market for, my food shopping, since I don't speak Portuguese yet, I can kind of fake it with my Spanish and, you know,
Yeah.
like put sh at the end of some of my words or whatnot. I
Yeah.
mean, make an attempt. And yes, and I will learn my Portuguese. It's just that I've been traveling a lot to the Philippines for a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Portuguese don't
so
get annoyed with you when you butcher their language or when you speak it with an accent or when you say things wrong. They just go with the flow, which
no,
is wonderful.
I I think it's wonderful, and also because we're trying, right?
Yeah.
If we're not, I think they would. I imagine like any human being, if somebody was just being rude, that they wouldn't appreciate it. But having grown up moving around all my life, recognizing it as a privilege, you show your respect and you show your appreciation that you can call a certain place home. And so I practice that every day. I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah.
And so I hope that comes across.
Sure.
I find it very funny that because I grew up going to school, like international schools, accents were a given.
Yeah.
Everyone's speaking English with a different accent. So that I don't consider that butchering English, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, and maybe I'm naive. I just don't imagine that people are upset with me because my accent is off.
No ways.
When I was living in France, they found my accent very cute
Okay.
when I speak in French. No one's ever told me to my face
I got told in France that I was butchering the language when I tried to speak French.
well, then they were rude,
I was
or
like,
they were not very,
Yeah.
hospitable.
Yeah. But it was Paris and it was like some high-end store, so it was a different experience, But anyway,
Whatever.
yeah. But you've lived in so many different places. What do you and we've seen Portugal become this destination for people from all over the world for various reasons. We know what's happening all over. We were speaking off camera how the world is just a strange place at the moment and getting stranger. And for me, something that I love about living here is I'll travel a lot and I'll come back and it's just like the same, and it's the normality and it's the calmness and it's people that are happy to see you when you get off the plane and walk through passport control and then beyond that when you walk into your local cafe. I mean, you've lived in all these places. What do you think makes Portugal different to all the other places that you've lived?
Well, the pace of life is definitely slower here. I know that the Parisians get a bad rap, right? But again, I lived there for 20 years and I loved my life there. And I think that once people know that you're respectful or whatnot, I mean, for the most part, I think for the most part, people are kind. That's been my experience. People are kind everywhere, and there are, people who are unkind as well, but I don't think it's our modus operandi to be jerks. Sometimes in these high-end establishments, like you were saying, I think that there's a faultiness in thinking that snobbery is, there's an entitlement to snobbery, and I just think that's foolish and ridiculous. That's my personal opinion. And that could happen in France, that can happen in the United States, it can happen in the UK, anywhere, right? So, but like, all I can say is maybe being blessed with more than 300 days of sunshine changes people's disposition. It's a smaller city. The pace is not as hectic. I imagine people are less on edge, but that's how it lands on me. And I believe because I tend to lead with, care. I think the care is reflected back to me.
Yeah. Between my job as a realtor at Portugal Realty and hosting this podcast, life is pretty busy. But lately I've been receiving so many messages from people that want to know more about buying property here on Portugal's Silver Coast that I've got to do something about it. So starting now, for subscribers only, I'm offering up a 30-minute session per day. That's 5 30-minute sessions for a one-on-one meeting to talk about buying property here on Portugal's beautiful Silver Coast. This is for subscribers only. So please subscribe to book your session and get in touch with us through the links below via WhatsApp or email to book your session today. I'll be happy to speak to you. It's for subscribers only and it's completely free. Tell us about being a spiritual stylist. So why would somebody need a spiritual stylist?
Well, no one needs anything, right? I mean, there's so many industries that will try and tell you that you need something.
Yeah.
So spiritual styling is more than, even though I began it from a place of, as an answer to fashion, because I was so tired of being a part of a machine that told women that they weren't enough. I became a fashion designer to celebrate the beauty that I saw. My very first muse was my mother, growing up in Southeast Asia in the 70s. We didn't have big malls and a lot of Western clothing when we wanted to buy clothing. So I had to, work with the seamstress to have clothes made for us. So designing clothing and putting outfits together was always an act of love and celebration of the beauty that I see. That when I became a fashion designer as an adult, it was like whiplash and utter shock that it was quite the opposite. It's a business, you want to sell product. I understand it, but there has to be some kind of decency to the pace at which we sell, because I saw that, the industry overproduces and it sells a lot of lies. And the overproduction and the lies is costly. It's costly to women psychologically, and it's costly to our planet, right? We know that, I don't know if all of us know, but 125 billion garments are made a year for a global population of 8.3 billion. So do the math on that. Yeah. No kidding. There's so much garbage and waste going up onto the shores in, the global south. And then our landfills are being just overrun with toxic clothing. Things aren't even natural fibers anymore, and they don't degrade quickly enough. So everything's it's just nonsense. I don't understand how businesses have become this way, right? It's just planned obsolescence, overproduction, telling people that they need more. I don't know where we're all going to end up. So spiritual styling is about helping the consumer take command of their consumption and get off of this hamster wheel of, oh my God, I have to keep up. I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. But then we don't. We can take command of it. And then getting to, it's about feeling that I am enough and I have enough just as I am. And how I look depends on how I see myself. Women are sold the concept of you have to look young or whatever it is. There's just a million things that we're sold. And somehow we've been trained to buy into that. So I'm not going to tell women not to buy into what they buy into, but just know that, be aware, you choose how to take care of yourself. And my hope is that self-care becomes care for the planet, right? Because there's always an option. There's always an option to choose an alternative that doesn't cause destruction.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, very much so.
I get a bit excited and passionate about what I do. So
yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, so for someone that would come and work with you, how does that all go? How would that work practically? I'm just curious.
How would that work practically?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you basically say to people, here's a couple of ideas of what you could wear, or so just help paint me a picture here. Sorry for my ignorance.
No, you're not ignorant at all. So it's a bespoke practice, and everybody is different. I'm actually working on something to make it a more general practice, so that you don't have to fly me out if you don't live in Lisbon or anything like that. But it's a bespoke practice of understanding the stories that you believe about yourself, and by using your closet as a guide, because everything you purchase, there's a reason for it, right? There's a feeling of lack. So you buy something because you believe you need it. So if a woman, I go into a person's closet and we identify the stories that they're telling themselves by their clothes
based on what they've bought.
Based on what they've bought. And sometimes a black t-shirt for one woman is not this, it doesn't have the same meaning as for the other woman.
Yeah.
So the way we discern that is it's energetic muscle testing. So I recognize I'm sounding super woo-woo here, and I guess spiritual styling is kind of woo-woo, but we start with a questionnaire before we even work together. The client will interview me. There will be a questionnaire as to what their hopes are, what they're expecting, the way they see themselves, and the way they would like to see themselves. And then depending on if we feel that we can work together, assuming that we feel that we can, I'm invited over to their home. And I do some energy work with them to test which clothing actually are triggers for them emotionally.
Wow.
So that the initial edit is a blind edit with their eyes closed, and we drape the garments on their arm. And then based on how their body responds, most people, it's a positive. If it's a positive garment, they'll move forward. And if it's negative, they'll move back. So we put the positives on one side, the clothes that tested negatively on the other. And then once that's done, when they open their eyes and they look at the clothes that have been removed, we start talking about, why those clothes were taken out. And they start seeing like, oh yeah, I bought that because I thought I was fat, so I needed to cover up. Or I bought that because it was Prada and it was 70% off. Did you like it? No, but it's Prada and it's 70% off. It's like, okay, so why do you need it? Because all the stories come out. Well, because it's Prada.
Yeah.
Right? So stories come out. And then oftentimes the to-go pile is so much bigger than the stay pile. But when we look at the pile that stays, it's like, well, why'd you buy that? Oh, because I really loved it. Are you wearing it? No. Why not? Because is it in fashion? I don't know what to do with it. So then the next part of the job is actually, let me show you, and this is where my fashion designer hat comes in, let me show you the 10 ways that you can wear this one piece. Yeah. Like, what do you want to achieve? How do you want to look? And then we create a really efficient wardrobe with the pieces that they bought because they loved it, not because, whatever norm was being sold to them was bought, right?
Yeah.
So spiritual styling is a means of discernment for people. And then I teach them how to understand when they start feeling lack, what they can do to feel whole.
Yeah.
So it's a long, it's several sessions, maybe 3 sessions of a process for them to develop their own awareness and then habits to counter the socialization and the bad habits that they used to have.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's so layered, and excuse the pun. I mean, I don't envy. I'm glad in some ways that I'm a guy, and I pretty much wear the same thing every weekend, and I don't have to worry about how do I feel. I just feel comfortable, and it's different for women. It's really, really different for women, and it's this whole thing of you've got to look a certain way and act a certain way, and yeah, that's tough.
I used to dress men in New York actually before I moved to Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing, like same, or this was now before the spiritual styling.
This was before the spiritual styling. Before spiritual styling was a formal service, but because of who I am, I always put a little bit of that in there. For instance, we won't go by. I'm sorry to be picking on Prada, but let's just do that for now.
Okay. I don't think they listen to this podcast, so we're fine.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, anyway, we don't buy things just because it's in. We don't buy things for pomp and pretense. We buy things because of how we want to feel.
Yeah.
So, that's always how I've been. I used to, when I was dressing men in New York, it was more shopping. And now what I find with the formal service of spiritual styling, I really help people to shop in their closets. So, and I help people open up their mindsets to not see lack, to see abundance in their spaces and abundance in their home, so that they're more, they develop more creative thought, so that they can take care of what they have and use it and find joy and play and creativity with what they already own. Because I don't, it's exhausting feeling like you have to buy things all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
And,
You do the
and
opposite.
feeling like
You don't help. You don't tell people what to buy. You tell them what to use, what they have.
I don't tell them to do anything, but I show them how to
suggest.
achieve their goal of, people have when people come to me, they have a goal of like, I feel like I look like shit. I need, excuse my French. I feel like I have terrible style.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way I don't like the way I look. And I don't know what to do because, it's so much garbage in the market. What can I do? So that's what happens. It's like I help people accomplish their objectives with what they own.
Yeah. But, and a lot of this is also for you, spiritual energy. There's a lot of emotions around this. I find it fascinating. And yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense. We buy things because of how we're feeling on the day or because of something that we're going through in our lives. And the way that algorithms work and social media, and I mean, the minute that you think about something, it's on your phone. It's quite frightening. So, I mean, this is really important to you, the spirituality and the energetic side of things. So I'm going to, go ahead.
Yeah, consumption for me is not just what you buy. It's the media that you consume.
Yeah.
Right. And the stories we tell ourselves, the company that we keep. So it's just bringing awareness rather than living by habit. I really, my hope is to empower people to always be in command of their choices. And, spirit, it's a practice. It's just a practice of being aware and choosing from your awareness. Because oftentimes what I find with fashion is that people know that there's so many poor practices in the industry. And but they say, well, what can I do? It's too expensive to buy luxury, or it's too expensive to buy a more sustainable alternative. But then if you think about it, the cost of buying things that are made poorly in conditions that harm people and planet, think about you're putting your money, you're investing in destruction.
Yeah.
So I think there's an energetic cost to that as well. Like, even if we don't, I think we know that we're doing that. So it's like I give people a means to do something in a way to feel productive towards their goals, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always someone who's doing it better. And there's always a way to prolong the use of something that you love. 90% of my clothing is 20 years old, and not because I bought it secondhand, but because I've been caring for my clothing. And also wanting to have a wardrobe that fits me for, these 20 years, that inspires me to stay in shape. Right. So I just find it's a win-win all around. It just, it motivates you to elevate how you treat yourself and how you treat others.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, when you, for instance, I will patronize individual designers, because I know that they are, for instance, oftentimes buying overruns of fabric instead of like weaving new threads, right, to make a collection. So they're doing their part in trying to make the world more circular. And pieces are one of a kind, and that oftentimes they will offer other services along with the clothing. Like, if you buy a garment from them, they'll tailor it to you, making it again more bespoke and just more meaningful, and it brings joy again to dressing rather than something you just don't care about. And know the people that you're impacting directly. So it builds relationship, it builds care, just builds purpose and engagement in the planet, rather than just habitually hustling for something, such as just money, right?
Yeah.
So,
what are you seeing happening in terms of fashion in Portugal? Because like I saw the other day, there's a mother and daughter fashion designers, and their work has been on Emily in Paris on that series. It was documented the Super Bowl halftime show. Bad Bunny, the top that he was wearing was made by a small local company in the north of Portugal. And
in Super Bowl, I thought Bad Bunny was wearing Zara in the Super Bowl.
it was, yes, so it was made by Zara, but it was designed by this company in the north of Portugal, or designed by Zara and made by this company in the north of Portugal, called I can't remember. I saw the name the other day. And
Zara's a bit tricky for me because generally they're really.
It's a big
I'm
company.
so surprised at how this talk is going because I'm just not being very kind to people. But Zara is horrible.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Their labor practices are quite despicable, and they're trying right now to elevate their image.
Yeah.
Right? By having, I forget what the term was for the Bad Bunny outfit, but like they created that outfit for Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So forgive me with my jet lag. I don't have all my words at the moment, but so they created that. It's not for mass production, supposedly, but Zara, the company itself, overproduction.
Yeah.
A lot of chemicals in their fabrics. Not made to the highest quality so that it will disintegrate, and their labor practices are appalling.
So who's doing it right in Portugal?
Lydia Colavrat, she's in Principe Real, and she makes everything in her atelier upstairs. So a lot of pieces there will be, even though there might be several pieces in a certain fabric, most of the pieces are one of a kind. And then if you need them altered to your shape or, to your preference, that's also included when you purchase it. So I love Lydia. And I remember the one day that it was raining when I came to Portugal that February before we moved here. It started to rain and I ran into a shop just for cover and I saw a raincoat. And I thought, okay, I'll invest in the city that I want to call home. And I bought the raincoat. And I think that it was, it was one of a kind. And so
do you still have the raincoat?
I still have the raincoat. I really do. I do love her work. It's unique and it's special. And she buys overruns from, the couture houses, for example, and then she makes it into her own style.
Okay.
So I do like Lydia. And then there's some other brands that, a lot of things that are made in Portugal. So the carbon footprint of traveling across oceans, etc., is diminished. There's a lot of good footwear. I can, off the top of my head, I don't have everybody's names, but I can send that to you later if you want to spread the word on the companies that I like. But there's a sneaker brand that you can bring your sneakers back and they'll resold it for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So I do appreciate that. I know that a lot of luxury brands do manufacture outside of Porto as well, even though they they will sell it back here in Portugal as well. But there's a lot of manufacturing in Portugal.
Yeah. I mean, come back to Portugal because I want to talk about the energy side of things because I know that's important for you. And so many people that have been on the podcast, sometimes it's difficult to describe. They find it difficult to describe Portugal because a lot of it's about a feeling and a lot of it's about the energy.
It's a feeling.
And so what would you how would you describe how Portugal makes you feel, the energy that you feel being here?
I feel like it's a warm embrace. It's definitely a warm embrace. And all the other cities I've lived in have been fun, exciting. Yeah, all of them. I feel very blessed that I've always loved where I've lived. Um, and at this part of my life, when I moved to Portugal as well, my dad had just died. So I think I just needed some place to grieve, that felt warm. And again, I come back to the blue sky and sunshine. So yeah, Portugal is a warm embrace, and it's a place that I feel it's okay to be as woo-woo as I am here. Not that I felt it wasn't okay to be woo-woo in Paris. Like I said, in 2024, I was in Paris like 5 times because I had work over there. But it's just,
What's that word that you use,
I feel like
Michelle? Woo-woo?
woo-woo,
Woo-woo?
woo-woo, spiritual woo-woo,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I feel there's a lot of people over here just wanting to live that, just be, and not have to make excuses for themselves.
Yeah, again, it's come up a lot in my conversations with people. They feel like it's a place where you can just be, and you have the space to just be, and that's special in today's world where, yeah, again, when you travel, when you go, and everything's rushing, and everybody's making dust and chasing tails, and yeah, then that you come here and it's just like, okay, well, I've got the time and the space just to be the way that I want to be and to enjoy the simple things. And that's special. And not a lot of places in the world exist like that today.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I love just going to the market and buying food, the fresh produce, and then the people who sell it,
like
yeah.
the Mercado Municipal. Yeah, the best.
Yeah, it's just lovely.
Yeah. And the
yes, in
conversations
Paris,
and
there's
the
some,
smells and the everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in Paris, we have markets also all the time, and that's really, really fun. But there's something about it, being here in a smaller city in sunshine with people who are smiling. People are happy.
And happy to talk to you,
nice.
which I think is huge as well. When you,
yeah,
again, whenever I travel, it's almost like people are not happy to have conversations with complete strangers. And here they are, and they don't know you from anywhere, but they'll afford you the time to have a chat and ask about your kid or ask about you. And it's lovely.
Yeah, it is lovely.
What do you want to say about the Portuguese people, Michelle?
Just thank you. Thank you for being so warm. Like you said, people, they don't know you, but they're happy to find out about you. And, like you said, they'll ask about your kid. Yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Michelle, what's one thing that you would like people to remember and to take away from our conversation? Just one thing.
I think so many people are moving to Portugal because of the people and yes, the weather, right? People are kind, and kindness goes a long way. And I think here in Portugal, people live by that, and that's what makes it so appealing, right? And it may sound simple, but if it was so simple, why isn't everybody kind? Sometimes when you're in the hustle and you're rushing and whatnot, you might forget, but people in Portugal don't seem to forget. They're kind.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah.
I live my life that way, and so I feel at home in a place that is also that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. How can people follow you? How can people get in touch and see what you're up to?
Michelle Pozon, _spiritual stylist, and Instagram. That seems to be where most people find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll put some links in the show notes and people can get in touch if they'd like to chat. Michelle, one more question, and a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Portugal, the simple life, because simple is lovely, right? And I think simple brings us back to our core values. We want to feel safe. We want to feel seen. We want to feel appreciated. And the people in Portugal, I feel that, I feel that they recognize that we appreciate them. The fact that we're all coming here, wow, we must have something that the world wants. And Portugal does, clean living, clean food, beautiful skies, beautiful people, the energy just being in just putting your feet on the grass, or when you're walking through Sintra, the energy is palpable. The ocean right there, always within sight. It's incredible. So these are simple things. These are things that it cannot be bought.
Yeah.
And Portugal has it in spades.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've loved our conversation. It's been great.
Me too. Happy to be here. Thank you as well.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.